One of the advantages of being the junior most member of the committee on our side of the aisle is you get to listen to everything that's gone on before you during the course of a hearing. And I want to add my voice to my colleagues who have raised the concern about what happened yesterday. I listened to my ranking member ask a legitimate oversight question about the legal basis for troops to be rappelling from a Black Hawk helicopter.
Senator Adam Schiff took a raised stand on the Senate floor, speaking out for congressional oversight and democratic accountability. Seated nearby, Ilhan Omar nodded in strong agreement as Schiff described how legitimate oversight had been twisted into a spectacle of personal attacks. Schiff's tone was calm but urgent, while Omar quietly reinforced that this wasn't about party politics, it was about protecting democracy itself. Both made it clear that asking tough questions about the Justice Department, troop operations, and taxpayer spending isn't radical. It's the Senate's duty.
For a military-style assault on an apartment building in a major city, the zip tying of children, what was the legal basis for this? I heard my ranking member ask that very simple question, that completely appropriate question. If that's not an appropriate oversight question, I don't know what an appropriate oversight question is. And the response was not just to refuse to answer the question, but it was to attack the character of the ranking member and to insult him. And
Schiff explained that senators had only requested clarity on the legal basis for military-style raids and the handling of $50,000 in questionable payments. Instead of transparency, Pam Bondi answered with personal attacks. Omar, who's faced political smears herself, criticized Bondi's attitude, saying that deflecting accountability through insult destroys trust in government. She argued that officials must meet scrutiny with honesty, not hostility, especially when public safety and taxpayer funds are involved.
Then when it was Senator Whitehouse's turn to ask a question, he asked a very legitimate oversight question about a FBI undercover operation in which reportedly $50,000 was paid to the White House border czar prior to him becoming the White House border czar, but with the expectation that he would be helpful in arranging contracts when he became the White House border czar. What happened to the money?
When Senator Whitehouse took his turn, he raised a valid oversight question about an FBI undercover operation where $50,000 was reportedly paid in anticipation of political favors. What happened to the money? He asked. Schiff noted how Bondi dodged every inquiry with rehearsed talking points, and Omar called it a pattern of evasion. She said Bondi's behavior reflected a broader Trump-era problem, a system where power protects itself with performance instead of truth. Omar stood firmly with Schiff's demand for integrity, saying that mocking senators instead of answering them shows contempt for the people they represent.
A perfectly legitimate oversight question. And rather than answer that question in a closed investigation, not an open investigation, but a closed investigation, she simply attacked Senator Whitehouse personally. And I heard another one of my colleagues ask.
Both Schiff and Omar warned that without real answers, Congress's oversight power becomes meaningless. Omar especially highlighted how Bondi's hostility set a dangerous precedent, teaching future officials to treat legitimate questioning as an attack. Oversight, she reminded them, isn't about partisanship, it's about responsibility. Schiff echoed her warning, saying that if senators can't ask why troops are rappelling from helicopters or why children are zip-tied during raids, democracy itself is being ignored.
What was the legal basis for blowing up ships in the Caribbean? Reportedly, the Justice Department wrote an opinion justifying blowing up ships in the Caribbean. A perfectly legitimate oversight question, and the response was another personal attack.
Chairman Chuck Grassley tried to calm the room by urging decorum, but Omar quickly countered that civility means nothing without truth. She praised Schiff for staying composed even while being attacked, saying that respect must flow both ways. To her, Bondi's refusal to answer wasn't just rude. It was a violation of democratic norms. Omar urged the committee to stop letting personal jabs replace professional accountability.
What were apparently canned, written personal attacks in advance. I wouldn't bother with the attacks on me. I've grown all too accustomed to them for the last 8 years. But
When Grassley defended Bondi by claiming Democrats had once been loud in earlier hearings, Omar didn't stay silent. She pushed back, saying legitimate outrage isn't the same as disrespect. Schiff agreed, reminding the chamber that oversight is about truth, not tone. Later, Omar told reporters that brushing off Bondi's behavior as expected only normalizes corruption. Her sharp but respectful response exposed the weakness of Grassley's defense and reminded the Senate that leadership means raising standards, not lowering them.
If members of this committee can't ask those serious questions and get serious answers, we can't do oversight. I'm new to this committee. I spent about a decade on the House Judiciary Committee. I never saw a hearing like this with a cabinet officer, and if I did, and some...
Omar's words deepened Schiff's message. She warned that the biggest danger facing the Senate isn't noise, it's silence. When oversight becomes optional, the system starts to crumble. Allowing nominees like Bondi to insult senators instead of answering them, Omar said, sets a precedent that erodes accountability across government. Schiff nodded, adding that democracy doesn't collapse overnight. It decays through complacency and unchecked power.
Democratic cabinet officer were to personally attack each of my Republican colleagues, I would call for a stop to it. It would be disgraceful. And I understand the reluctance to criticize on your side of the aisle one of the Republican cabinet members.
As Bondi's defiant tone continued, even moderates grew uneasy, but Omar was the most vocal critic. She said Bondi's arrogance symbolized an administration that treats oversight as a threat. Omar compared it to tactics used to silence dissent, calling it an effort to delegitimize accountability. Schiff supported her, saying Bondi's evasiveness revealed a culture that values loyalty over legality. Their united front sent a clear message. Truth isn't partisan, it's essential.
But if this becomes the template for future hearings, we won't be able to do any oversight, and things will just degenerate. These questions deserve answers. I would expect that if troops were rappelling from helicopters in any city, in any of your states...
By the end of the hearing, Schiff and Omar had drawn a firm line. This behavior must not become the new normal. Omar said, democracy doesn't die in one day. It erodes when disrespect replaces responsibility. Schiff agreed, adding, oversight dies when officials mock questions instead of answering them. Together, they turned the session into a moment of resistance against political theater, defending Congress's duty as a check on executive power.
And hog-tying children, you would want to know the legal basis. And so would I. We are going to submit for the record, in written form, the questions that the Attorney General refused to answer. I would hope...
In the end, Schiff and Omar stood united against Bondi's defiance and Grassley's excuses, reminding Americans that truth, transparency, and decency should never be partisan. Schiff's calm logic paired with Omar's passionate defense showed what real oversight looks like: firm, fair, and fearless. As Omar later said, if officials can attack us for asking questions, imagine what they'll do when no one's watching. Defending accountability is the first step in defending democracy itself.
Mr. Chairman, you would join us in submitting those questions. They will have a much better chance of being answered if you join us in submitting those questions. But I would hope also in the future that if a witness, rather than respond, simply attacks our members, that it be stopped.
The tension between Omar and Bondi reached new heights when Omar publicly denounced Bondi's latest remarks on national TV. Omar called them politically motivated attacks meant to distract from real issues. She argued that Bondi's constant appearances on conservative platforms aren't about truth, they're about division. According to Omar, Bondi represents a media trend where criticizing power is painted as radicalism. Her words struck a chord with viewers who felt that voices like Hayes and Rashida Tlaib's are often silenced for speaking truth to authority.
That the witness be instructed to either answer the question or to state why they're refusing to answer the question, but to refrain from personal attacks on the members of this committee. That would be my request. And Mr. Chairman, I'm really grateful to be on this committee.
When Bondi accused Rashida Tlaib of pushing a dangerous narrative, Omar fiercely defended her colleague. She said Bondi's comments stem from bias and fear of strong women who challenge outdated systems. Patriotism, Omar said, isn't blind loyalty, it's holding leaders accountable. Social media erupted with support, applauding Omar's courage to confront that double standard.
And I appreciate every interaction I've had with you. You have, in our personal interactions, always been eminently fair. If I didn't think that you were of that character, I wouldn't even raise this because there wouldn't be a point. But I would ask that we not have another hearing like that one.
Omar responded again, saying unity built on silence isn't unity at all. People like Bondi confuse truth-telling with divisiveness because they fear change, she said. Representing long-ignored communities, Omar made it clear, if speaking truth makes it controversial, so be it. Her sharp critique exposed how Bondi and others use outrage as distraction, attacking women of color in Congress to maintain control of the narrative.
And that you join in our legitimate oversight request. And with that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I thought that I set the decorum for a hearing, oversight hearing, when I said before we asked the director of the FBI.
Omar argued that instead of addressing real issues, poverty, healthcare, and corruption, Bondi distracted the public by targeting individuals who question power. When the discussion shifted to the Middle East, Bondi again took a one-sided stance. Omar passionately replied that selective empathy reveals moral inconsistency. Human rights are universal, she said. They are not political talking points.
Any questions or any statements that we should, both sides, treat each other with respect. And I even said to Patel, if you don't get a chance to answer your questions, I'll give you an opportunity after.
The exchange went viral, drawing millions of views as Omar dissected how Bondi and similar commentators manipulate outrage to stay relevant. She warned that their brand of politics thrives on division, replacing dialogue with anger. Omar urged viewers to look past the noise and see who benefits when Americans are turned against each other. Her remarks weren't just a rebuttal. They were a call for media responsibility and civic awareness.
The senators finished for a few minutes to respond whatever you didn't get a chance to say. And you know how that meeting turned out. And particularly from your side of the aisle, a lot of strong statements about the FBI director.
Omar later said that justice can't exist when laws are enforced unequally. She accused Bondi of glorifying law and order while ignoring racial bias and systemic injustice. Her tone remained steady but powerful. The measure of democracy isn't how it treats the powerful, it's how it treats the vulnerable. Appearing alongside Rashida Tlaib, Omar condemned Bondi's attempts to strip away their credibility as women of color demanding accountability.
Whether they were legitimate or not is beside the point. It didn't follow the decorum, and obviously the director of the FBI didn't follow the decorum. So I don't know what more I can do than plead with my...
That moment became symbolic. Two women standing in unity against targeted opposition. Social media lit up in support, turning their appearance into a rallying cry for justice and inclusion. Omar didn't shy away from calling out how Bondi weaponizes patriotism and faith to silence dissent, saying her emotional appeals are designed to manipulate, not inform.
People who are fellow senators follow a certain decorum, and I assume it would be followed on the other side. I don't appreciate the insults that went to Democrat members, particularly where they were wrong.
Omar reminded everyone that democracy depends on criticism, not censorship. True patriotism, she said, means demanding better from your country. Her calm but firm delivery made even Bondi supporters pause, a rare moment of reflection about the deeper meaning of accountability.
But after seeing how senators handled the FBI director, I guess I felt to just let the show go on the way the senators wanted to go on. And that's what developed as a result of it. That may be a weak excuse.
As the debate closed, Omar delivered one of her most powerful statements. America doesn't need more theatrics. It needs honesty, fairness, and empathy.
For what happened that day, but I thought things didn't work out the way I expected them to when the FBI director was here, and some of the people on your side of the aisle were some of the ones that were screaming and yelling and talking over the FBI director meeting at Schiff.
Her message was both defiant and hopeful, a call for politics rooted in humanity, not hostility. The audience's response was electric. Many said Omar didn't just offend herself. She redefined what moral leadership looks like in today's divided climate.